everyone. So good morning, and how are you doing over there? I'm doing great this side. Okay, so in our previous video or lecture, we looked at functions. We also looked at if statements, and we also looked at functions. Okay, so I remember very well, by the time we finished, we looked at function declarations, where we could define a function and it does something. So in today's video, we are going to continue with functions, and we look at other types of functions. So from our last video, if I'm just going to recap, let me go to my folder and create a folder for today's lecture. So let me create here. So today's is lesson 4. So I'm just creating my folder here. Excuse me. So let's create a folder here, and I'm just going to call it intro to JS. Lesson 4. Okay, so open this in VS Code. So I'm opening my folder in VS Code. Okay. So as it is opening, okay, so we talked about the functions. To those ones who have not watched the previous videos, please go back to I'm just going to link the playlist. You can go and start from the first video. If you missed any, please, it is good you follow up for wherever we started from, so that you don't miss out anything. And I try to explain most of the steps so that you have less or you try to understand more. And if you have any question, please just comment in the video description, or you can also join our WhatsApp group. So I will also leave the link to join the WhatsApp group in the description, where you can also ask questions from there about that particular video. Okay, so let me check if my folder has opened in VS Code. So let's right here create index.html. Okay, so let me create index.html, and don't hesitate to ask any question, or if you want me to make any video to clarify about something, you can always comment in the description or in the WhatsApp group, and you let me know of which topic or which video do you want me to make next. Okay, so that you can completely understand the concepts before we jump into projects, because we are soon going to start doing projects. So it's better you understand the fundamentals very well. So I'm just going to create here also app.js. So I've created my two files. I've created the HTML for the markup, and JavaScript app.js for the JavaScript. Okay, so for some reason it always takes some time. Really sorry for that. Just go this side and try to bring up the markup for HTML, and you can see it is initializing here. It will take a moment, and finally it is here. Okay, Okay, that's great. So let's link our JavaScript. So put here script source and let's put app.js. Okay, and then don't forget to put the far keyword so that the JavaScript is loaded last when the HTML has been passed. This is what it means, and in the future we will replace it with something else, but for now don't just worry, just put if. Okay, so I'm just going to put here maybe h1 and I say intro to just maybe functions, and this is lesson 4. Okay, so let's just jump into my JavaScript file here, and I said always test if it is working, so you can just say console.log it's working, so that we check if it is working before we start writing all this JavaScript. So I'm just going to go here. You can even right click here and say open with Live Server. Okay, and let's wait for a minute. Okay, so meanwhile, to take you up to speed, we said we have 3 common types of functions. 3 common. Okay, it has opened. Go to inspect and come here and select console. Okay, and you can see it's working here. It's working. That's great. It means it is working. It has connected very well. So we said we have 3 common types of functions, and by the way, there are some other types of functions apart from these 3, but we'll focus on the commonly used functions in JavaScript. And we said the first one, so the first one, let me just write here. So the first one, number 1, we looked at function declaration. I don't know if that is the spelling, I'm spelling it, but the first one is function declarations, and these are the simple ones we did. So to make you remember, we said for instance you use the function keyword. So function, for instance, sum. Okay, sum of numbers. Okay, maybe sum of 2 numbers, sum of 2 numbers, and we can pass in number 1 and number 2. Okay, and then you can go ahead and say const sum is equal to num1 plus num2. Okay, and then you say return. I don't know if we use the return keyword, console.log sum. Okay, so we said this, and then we went ahead and we could invoke this by saying sum of 2 numbers. Okay, sum of 2 numbers, and let's pass to an array, and you see what it is going to. So we said you define a function here, and then here you invoke the function. So here we define the function, and then we invoke the function. Okay, as simple as that. So if you go to the console now, we have 5. Okay, I can take away this console here. That is great. So that one is function declarations. And one more thing I want to do is that in most cases we don't actually normally do the console.log within the function, because console.log we normally use it for testing if the function is working. But the proper way, when a function does something, for instance, this one is doing the sum, what we want is that we want it to return, or we want it to give out the sum. Okay, we want the sum of two numbers. At the end of the day, is we want this sum. So instead of doing console.log, we can return the sum. Okay, we can return the sum as simple as this. But now when we invoke, there is nothing now coming. Why? The return does not mean it is doing the console. No, it means that it makes sum readily available from this function. Okay, so what it means, this function is giving out the sum of numbers, but it does not mean it is printing the sum to the console. Okay, so if we wanted to print the sum to the console, the easiest way would do console.log. Okay, so we could do console.log, and we could say sum of two numbers. Remember, this sum of two numbers, if you pass these two numbers, it is returning the sum. So if you saw console.log sum of two numbers and you pass the two numbers, it will give us 5. Or we could just come and put this one in the sum. Okay, we could just come outside here and we say const sum is equal to sum of two numbers. And by the way, when you define a function, we are going to look at scope. When you define a function within this function here, outside here they are not seeing this sum here. There is no way you can do, for instance, console.log sum from outside. Okay, you cannot do this. Like right now, let me first put this one off. You cannot do console.log sum. You will see that the utility sum is not defined. So this behavior we'll talk about, it is called scoping. So when you define something inside the function, it is only within that function that it is used. Okay, outside here we don't know the sum. That's why we are able to do this, to say const sum, because the sum is not defined anywhere. Here it is within this function and they don't know it outside. So const sum is equal sum of two numbers. Remember, this returns the sum. That's why it returns like a figure. When you put numbers, it returns a number. That's why we are able to put in the sum and we can console the sum. Okay, like so. Okay, so if you have not understood that, you can also comment and I can describe more. But for now, let's move on and I will keep on explaining more about this return keyword. Okay, so this is the definition of function declaration. So the second type of functions we can look at are called function expressions. So we have function expressions. Okay, so the second ones are called function expressions. Okay, so let's just look at, so here, and I'm just going to put here function expression. So function expression is defined the way we define variables. So we normally define variables like const age is equal to 23. Okay, we could just define like this. So this is an expression, just a simple expression. Okay, so if we want to do function expression, what we do is, one, we first define the name of the function. So for instance, we could just say function, and we just give the name of the function const, and we say maybe add numbers. So for instance, this one is the name of the function is equal to function. Okay, so we could just put number 1 and number 2. and we go ahead and do this. We do the addition of numbers. So we do the same thing and we say the const. So we could just we can even just say return. There's no need, if you don't want it, there's no need of doing here const. So you would do this under normal circumstances. If you wanted, you could even name it result. So for instance, result to be num1 plus num2. Okay, so const result is equal to num1 plus num2, and then you could just say return result. Okay, you could just say return result, as simple as that. Or in fact, if you wanted, you could skip this step of putting const result and you simply say return, and you simply return this in one line. Okay, you just simply say return num1 plus num2. So it's going to return the sum of this one. So I want you to look at how we have done this function. So this function has also two parts. It has the name, so the name comes first this time. If you look at the other one, we have the function keyword. Even in this one we have the function keyword, but the name comes first, const add numbers. So add numbers is the name of the function, and then is equal to function, and then you write the normal way of how we write the function. So here we simply assign it to a variable or a name. Okay, so this is what we call a function expression. So if we wanted to invoke it, so invoking it is the same. We could just come and say add numbers. Of course, you know we are doing return, so we can console.log add numbers, and it takes in two numbers, and we can also say 10 and 20. Okay, so console.log add numbers. So what we will do, it will take this 10, put it here, take this 20, put it here, and then it will return this sum. So if we go to the console, you can see we have started here. Okay, so I want to repeat. We had function declaration, we show the example. Now the second ones are called second expressions. So function expressions are created by assigning a function to a variable. They are not hoisted, which means they are not available for use until they are defined. Okay, here is an example. So what they mean is that you would not do this. Maybe let's just say if we did this on top of it, I guess that's what they are trying to say. You cannot, so you can see an accord to reference cannot access add numbers before initialization. So if we are using this one, you have to know that they are not hoisted. That means that they cannot be accessed before they are defined. Okay, which is different from these function expressions which are hoisted. What do I mean they are hoisted? So if we did this, we invoke it before accessing it on top here, it will still work. You can see 5. They can still work even before when they have not defined. Okay, they will find them wherever they are defined within. And those ones are function declarations, and then these ones are function expressions. Okay, so great. We are doing great. So so this is an example, and you can see we have const of var Sahiri, and it takes in the name, and then you can do this. Okay, so that is a function expression. So let's look at the last one, which we are going to look at, which is arrow functions. Okay, so an arrow function, let's just go ahead and do some other example. So the third one in here. The third one. Number 3 is arrow functions. Arrow functions. Okay, so arrow functions is the modern way of writing functions. So for instance, they just have a normal way we have been writing. So we have been writing, for instance, const calculate edge. So calculate edge or calc edge would equal, if it was function expression, we would say is equal to the function, and it takes in edge. Okay, and does it take, yeah, it takes in edge, so it takes in bone here. Okay, so someone to like you put in bone here. So this one, let's just say arrow functions. So this one, calc edge, I've defined here, is actually not an arrow function. If you look at it, this is similar to this one. Okay, calc edge is function, born here, and would say, for instance, return 2023 minus born here. Okay, simple as that. This one would calculate for us. If I come here and I say console.log calc edge, so I just say calc edge, and let me pass in, okay, let me pass in something like 25. So someone is 20, was born in 1995. Okay, so what is the age, like the current age? If we check in the console, you can see it's 28. Okay, if I put something like 2020, this person is 3 years. Oh, okay, great. So if this calculates the number of age, so how do we change this to be an arrow function? So if I want to write this in the arrow function, we could say const, okay, const, let me just comment it, const calc edge, okay, is equal to born here. So born here, and then it returns 2023 minus born here. Okay, so as simple as that. Look at that. So this is what we call, let me first minimize here so that you can look at it very well. So const calc edge is equal to, so this one is the function, we use the brackets or the parenthesis, and then we use this sign as a return. So this sign here means return. So this one is the function. Okay, so this one is the parenthesis, and we pass in the arguments or the parameters, and then we use this sign to return. And what do we return? We return this, and you can see 2023 minus 1 here. So if we again console this, just put 1993. So if we go here, we can see it is 30. Okay, let me maybe first take off this one. So you can see it returns 30. Okay, so you can even test it with something else, maybe 1998 25. Okay, so this is what we call an arrow function. The arrow, they got it from this arrow, so that's why they call it an arrow function. So this is the modern way of writing arrows in one line. So you write your function in one line, and if it exceeds one line, then you have to consider others. But if you are having a function like this one that does not do a lot of things and is going to be in one line, then you can consider using like so. Okay, So great, this is what we call an arrow function, and we'll continue using both to do things. So arrow functions are a modern way to write functions in JavaScript. They are created using the arrow syntax, okay, and are concise and easy to read. Arrow functions do not have their own this value, and we will see what does this mean, this keyword, this value, and cannot be used as constructors. Here is an example of arrow function, so you can see here. And by the way, yes, so in this case, you see how what we have done here. So imagine if we are going to do more things, for instance, doing like this const. If we wanted to do something like const, this one would be written like this. So let me do this, put this one off. So if we had more than one line, I said if you have one line, or if all your things are fitting on one line, you put like so. But if you have more things to do, or you want to do more calculations, or you want to do more things, then you do not have to use this way. So you do the same thing like this, okay? So this return, you return the brackets, and then now you go ahead and do your things. For instance, const what? So const age, you could say const age is equal to 2023 minus born year, and then you go ahead and return return age. As simple as that. So if we run again this, it is going to give us 25. Okay, so I want you to be careful. So it has two syntaxes. It has this one whereby you write on a single line. So if your code you are going to do is a one line, you can actually define it in this way, okay? But if you are doing more things inside, like you are going to have a const and other things, you have to return these curly brackets. Otherwise, you don't need to put the curly brackets. You write it like this, okay? We will continue doing more examples so that you can actually get how this syntax actually works, okay? Okay, so we are doing well. So let's continue and see what more things we can talk about them. So we have already talked about invoking functions. So to call a function, you simply need to use its name followed by a set of parentheses that may include arguments. So for instance, you can just simply call the function. We have already talked about that, and we have also talked about parameters. So functions can also accept parameters, which are values that are passed to the function when it is called. The function can use parentheses to perform its tasks, for example, like so. Okay, so you can see we have talked about these parameters in the earlier lessons, and then we also talk about the key function return keyword. So if you have function add, which takes in a and b, and then it returns a plus b, so you have to come to access it. You say sum is equal add, and that we have done that. But what we want to emphasize is functions can also return a value using the return statement. The return statement ends the function's execution and specifies the value that should be returned to the caller. If the function does not have a return statement, it will return the special value undefined. Okay, so if you don't return anything, it will return undefined. Okay, so always remember to use the return keyword to return a value that you want, that you are intended to return from that function. Okay, so with that, we have seen three types of functions. And in summary, if we are going to talk about these functions, we have function declaration that can be used before it is declared, and we talked about that one. So for instance, function calc age, which takes in birth year, it would return 2037 minus the birth year. Okay, if we are in 2037 anyways. And the second one is function expression, essentially a function value stored in a variable. So you store it in a variable, for instance, const calc age is equal to function birth year, return 37 minus birth year. So you can see this is the function expression. Okay, and then we have also arrow function. So great for quick one-line functions, and they have no this keyword. So we are going to talk about this in later lessons. What does it mean not have this keyword? Well, we have to bind it to this arrow function. So there are 3 different ways of writing functions, but they all work in a similar way. They receive input data, they transform data, and then they output data. Always remember that, and you can take a screenshot of this, by the way. I wish you could take a screenshot of this, and even me, let me just save this as a screenshot so that I can share it in the group. Let me just say save. Can I save and browse? So let me just save this on desktop. I will use this later, send it in the group, and maybe just call it function screenshot, function screenshot, and let me save it as a JPEG or PNG, whatever. So only this, just this slide, and it has been saved. Okay, then that's great. So always remember this is a summary of what we have done from the other video up to this video. Okay, so in summary, if I'm going to talk about the function or anatomy of a function, or how the function is created. Okay, so if we look at this function, let's just start from here. So a function must have a name, so you can see function calc age. Functions, they normally have parameters. And what are parameters? Parameters are placeholders to receive inputs. Values like local variables of a function. So when you put in these parameters, they become local variables of that function. That's why you can be able to use the birth year and the first name. Okay, that's why you are able to use them within the function, because they are acting as local variables of that function. Okay, now function body. So a block of code that we want to reuse, it processes the function input data. So if you see, we use this parenthesis. If you see this yellow parenthesis here, it is the block of code. This one I've put in this red dotted stuff is the block of code that you want to reuse. Okay, so for instance, const age is 2037 minus birth year, and you say console.log, and you can use, we have already seen this syntax of using $first name is age years old, and you can see first name is also a parameter that was passed in. Okay, so you can do this, and then we return age. Okay, so in this function you can say return statement to output a value from the function and terminates the execution. So if you put the return keyword, anything you put down, it does not matter. It will not be executed because the execution is terminated at this line of code. Okay, so I know this is a lot, but this, you could also take a screenshot of this. Okay, I'm just also going to take a screenshot of this, and then const age. So outside here we can now access our calc age function, and we pass in the age, the birth year, and we can also pass in the name. And you can see here variable to save return the value from the function. So we have here the age as the variable to save this year that has been returned. Okay, so here, if you remember, this function returns age, so we can get that age and we save it in a variable called age, and we could just say calc age, we call this function, and we pass in the birth year 1991, and we pass in the first name, which is Jonah. And so you can see this is what you call invoking the function using the parentheses, and these ones are the actual arguments or the actual values of the function parameters to input the data. Okay, so I hope this makes you understand. I'm also going to take I'm just going to take the screenshot. Let me just save, browse, and I'm just going to put it in the desktop also, and this one is going to be also, so let me just say JPEG, and let me just say function anatomy. So this one is an anatomy of functions, just on this slide, and we have also that. So I will share those ones even on WhatsApp status. I will just put them so that you can always remember this. I think it makes sense if it is in one spot. Okay, so this is great. We are going to use this kind of stuff to do more exercises. So in the next slide, I have a list of functions, and I'm just going not to attend all the questions. I will do some few so that you can do the remaining ones. Okay, but before that, we can just do this calc age, where we pass in the birth year and the first name. And so we can modify our calc age function here. So we have here the calc age function, which was actually the arrow function. You can just pass here, for instance, born here, and you can pass also the first name. Okay, like so, and you can come and first calculate the age. Okay, and then you can also say const message. You could even write a message that you want to return to the user. So for instance, you could say the message should say so for instance, if my first name is John Baptiste or is John, so we would want to return something like first name, so dollar first name. Okay, you are maybe 25 years old, so we would say your age, so dollar age, and we could just say years old. Okay, so this is our message that we want to pass back to the user, and we can return the message. Okay, we can return the message as simple as that. And now what we are saying that the return keyword, it terminates the execution even if you put here 3 plus let's just say you go ahead and put even console.log 3 plus 5. So this code won't be seen. That's why even you see here, it is grayed out. This code is grayed out because this will not be seen, because the function will terminate when it reaches on the message. So if we come down here, and now we call calc age, and we pass in 1998, and we pass in the first name John Baptiste. Okay, and we go to the console. You can see John Baptiste, you are 25 years old. There is this stuff here. One thing that we not, this one, there is no need of that one. So if you check now the console, John Baptiste, you are 25 years old, and you see that this one has not been executed. Console.log, if we put it here before the return, if you put it before the return, you said it will be executed. 8 is there. But if you put it after the return keyword, okay, if you put after the return keyword here, it will not be executed, because we said The return keyword, it returns, okay, the value you want to give out, and it also terminates the execution of the code. So the code below it will not be seen. So remember that, and we always use that one. So that is it. You can see that, so you can do that function. So let's just do some questions. Maybe I'm just going to do maybe like 3 questions, and I will also complete this video. I don't want it to be longer than that, so that we'll actually I think before we'll also look at some kind of advice for about a minute, but for now let's do like the first 2 or first reason. So for instance, the first question says, create a function that takes into numbers as arguments and returns their sum. So this one we avoid done this. The example we use it in the examples, it takes in and returns their sum. So you could just say sum of numbers. So whichever you want to use, by the way, at this point, whichever function type of function you want to use, whether you want to use function expression, whether you want to use function declaration, it is up to you. They are all the same, they do the same things, only they have some small limitations. So if you like this one, function declaration, you can stick to this one, but you also have to know how they create others, because you will meet other people using other functions, so you have to know how to use that. So for instance, sum of 2 numbers, we avoid done this one, and you can see it is this question they are actually referring to. So the second question says, write a function that takes in a number as an argument and returns even if the number is even and odd if the number is odd. So the function that takes in a number as an argument and returns, and you see what it is return? It's returning even if the number is even and odd if the number is odd. So we could just say, come here and write a function. So I'm just going to use any maybe function expression. So I just say function, okay, so function, okay, function, maybe we call it, give it a name, is odd or even. So just like we are asking if this number is odd or even, and it takes in a number, so we could just say it takes in a num, and then what does it return? So we say if, for instance, if number is divisible by 2, let's first see what they say. Let's just go back to the question and see what it says. That takes in what? A number and return if the number is even and odd if the number is. So how do we know that the number is even? So the number is even if it is not divisible by 2. So we could just say if number is, if the division or if the remainder of dividing number to 2 is equal to 0, if it returns 0, if this number you divide it by 2 and the remainder is equal to 0, that number is even. Okay, so at that point we could just say return. So of course we could just say here return. What do we return? So if that is true, we could just say maybe just use console.log at this point. Console.log, the number is even. So we could just say the number is even. Okay, you can just leave that, or you could even just return a statement like this. Okay, but just leave it like that, and we could just do else here. Else, and of course by the way, I don't need to put the keyword return. So we just say else consider the number is odd, because if it is not even, it is odd. So let's just test it. I just say is odd or even. So let's pass in 4. So let me go to the console, and you see the number is even. Okay, let me just pass in 41. The number is odd. Okay, so you can see that one, we have used the function. At the same time, inside the function we have used an if statement. Okay, so great. Number 3 says write a function that takes a string as an argument and returns the number of values in the string. Okay, so I would leave this one for you guys to try it out. I will maybe talk about it later when I come back. I want you specifically to try this one, but to give you a hint, you have, for instance, you could have function and give it a name, function, maybe functions vowels in a string. Okay, vowels in string, and then it takes in the string str, and then it returns what. So how do we know the vowels? But to give you a hint, you know that the vowels is A, E, I, O, and U. So these are the vowels, but you could just check and you say use, for instance, if it contains A, or if it contains E, if it contains these ones, and you could, and I think at this point it might be advanced. If you fail to do it, I will understand and I will tackle it when we come later, but I want you to first try out and see how you would do that. Okay, so let me just see if I can do one more. Write a function that takes a base and height of a triangle and return its area. So that one is easy. They want you to calculate the area of a triangle. So a function that calculates the area of a triangle. Okay, so you could just say function. Okay, function. Just say this time we use an arrow function. Const area of triangle. Okay, area of triangle is equal to, and it takes in base and height. So base and height, and you could say it returns, what does it returns? A half times base. So the area of triangle is the formula for calculating area of a triangle is a half times base. So it can return 0.5 times base, which is b, and then times height. As simple as that. Look at how short this can go. Okay, this is it, guys. This is it. Area of a triangle, it takes in the spelling of triangle. Area of triangle, it takes in base and height, and it returns a half times base times height. As simple as that. So just go and say try this. So you could just say const area is equal to area of a triangle, and let's pass in base and height. So if the base is maybe, so base is always maybe bigger. So if base is 4 and height is 2, so that one will give us, I guess, 4. Let's console.log area here. Console.log area, so that we can see the area of the console. So you can see it is 4. Okay, you can see it is 4. But basically this is one line look at this. So if we wanted to do this in terms of function expression or function declaration, it would be longer than this. Okay, but this is why people like arrow functions, because you can actually write in one line. Okay, it saves a lot of time, and it also makes the code to look very clean. Okay, so just going to close up the functions at that point, but I wanted to say some hints before I leave. Okay, so try all these questions, please try these questions, and I'm just also going to take a screenshot of this. I'm just going to take a screenshot of this so that guys, you can try try to do these coding challenges, because that's the only way you can actually understand coding, by only. So function challenges, so simply try them out. Okay, try them out and see if you can do all of them. If you do all of them, that is good. If you cannot, I would like to see in the comments, you comment which question gave you a challenge, and I can just tackle that in the next video. Okay, that's great. We are about to finish, but in this I think I want to talk about learning to code. There are very many people who spend a lot of their time stuck failing to learn to code, most especially if they are watching from YouTube and you don't have an instructor at hand. I have been actually there for a long time. I am a self-taught, so I understand what you go through, guys. So the first ways to learn what other people think learning is on YouTube. So this guy we're going to be using, John, just not to read that is John, but just to use it in this example. So, but you can see the heading here is how to fail at learning how to code. So there is this guy called John, and he didn't have a clear goal at the beginning of his journey. So there are some people who just start coding, maybe they saw others doing coding, or it is because it is a hype. Okay, they have no clear goal why they are starting the coding journey. Okay, so he started watching courses and reading tutorials, but he would just copy the code without caring how it works. Sometimes he could just copy and paste the code. So that's why at this point I don't even give the code. At some point I will start giving you the code when you have reached at some level, but people like copying and pasting the code and they see it working. So that was how John used to do his things. He did not reinforce what he was learning by doing small challenges or taking notes. He didn't practice coding. He didn't come up with his own project ideas. He quickly became frustrated when his code was not perfectly clean or efficient. He lost motivation because he thought he could never know how to code. He was learning in isolation. After finishing a couple of courses, he thought he was now a web developer, and he started applying for jobs, but he couldn't even build an app on his own. So don't be John. Why I put that part, it is very familiar to very many people. They jump on YouTube, they have no clear goal why they're starting programming. They start watching tutorials here and there, writing there and there, and then maybe someone gives them the code on the GitHub. They copy the code, they're happy about themselves. When you tell them to write a simple app by themselves, they cannot. And then they find themselves in a tutorial here. Okay? So how do you succeed at learning how to code? Okay? So first of all, the first problem John had was he didn't have a clear goal at the beginning of his journey. So to fix this, set a specific, measurable, realistic, time-based goal. Okay, just say by the end of this month I should have mastered JavaScript. Just say by the end of 2 months I should have known CSS. And then set realistic. Realistic, we mean don't set yourself to fail and start saying by the end of this month I would have known how to make a mobile app. No, you haven't known anything and you are just not being realistic to yourself. Okay, that is one. Set a specific, measurable, realistic and time-based goal so that you can actually be able to achieve something, but try to be specific on what you want to learn. Say I want to start with HTML, CSS, and I want to learn it by 2 months. That is somehow specific, measurable, and realistic, and time-based. That's why. Know exactly why you are learning to code, switching careers, finding a better job. So, for instance, why are you learning to code? Do you want to be independent? Do you love building app? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you have an app you love, you want to build? Have something why you are going to code. You get? Me, I love coding, and why I went into coding is to build applications. I was seeing Facebook, I look at YouTube, and I was always be happy if I could know how to build these applications. They pushed me so hard to learn to code. Okay? But have a reason why you are doing it. Why are you learning to code? So for instance, imagine a big project you want to be able to build. The time I used to look at Jumia website, and I was like, if I could build a Jumia website by myself, I would have achieved. So that website could always push me to learn a lot of things. I tried HTML, CSS to build Jumia. I tried PHP. I learned a lot of things because of that one big project. Okay? Research technologies you need to learn and learn them. So when you just say, I want to build YouTube, YouTube will have which technologies can you first research. For instance, which technologies did they use to build YouTube, and then start learning those technologies. For instance, he would also, another problem John had, he would just copy the code without caring how it works. Sometimes he could just copy and paste. So for instance, do not copy and paste the code. Okay, understand the code that you are studying and typing it. So if you are looking at my code on the screen, try to type it, not just screenshotting it or just copying it. Just try to type the code by yourself so that it can sync and you understand it. So always type the code. Don't copy and paste, please. Okay, he did not reinforce what he was learning by doing small challenges or taking notes. So to fix this, you see I've given you, for instance, challenges. Please try to do those challenges, however small they are. Try to do them and see if you can do them by yourself. So after you learn a new feature or a concept, use it immediately. Take notes, challenge yourself, and practice with small coding exercises and challenges. Don't be in a hurry to complete the course or do something fast. Always try to take up some challenges. Take your time. Learning code is not easy as such. So be patient yourself. Do small things. If I give you a small challenge, try to take the challenge. Okay, take the challenge and do those small exercises. The fact is, you have to write some code and you write it by yourself. Okay, and then you can also find more challenges, like on Code Wars. You can go to Code Wars and other online resources. Okay. Another one, he did not practice coding and he didn't come up with his own project ideas. So to fix this, you always, if you learn something, try to get more exercises by yourself. Okay, try to go and just go on Google and ask for more questions. Be creative and get more questions about what you have done or what you have studied, so that you can practice it to the maximum. So practice on your own is the most important thing to do. This is not optional. Without practice outside the course, you won't get anywhere. Come up with your project ideas. Okay, copy popular sites or applications and just parts of them in the beginning. So just go and look at something like the website and try to do something. Try to come up with your own questions, okay? Try them out, and then you will have what to ask me the next time we come to do a lecture. So he quickly became frustrated when his code was not perfectly clean. So don't get stuck trying to write the perfect code. At this point, we don't expect you to write perfect code. Just make it work. Just write the tons of code, no matter the quality. Clean and efficient code will come with time, and it is always by experience that you start writing that clean code. Okay, so you can always, of course, refactor the code later when you start getting advanced. He lost motivation because he thought he could never know everything. Embrace the fact that you will never know everything. Just focus on what you need to achieve your goal. Even senior developers up to now, they don't know everything. Even up to me myself, every day I'm learning. So embrace the fact that you can't know everything. Just focus on what you need to achieve for that particular goal. So if you are building maybe a calculator, only focus on the calculator or what you need to do with the calculator, and that will be it. Okay, so thank you guys. I think we'll continue next time. To those who have not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel, share the content. If it is helping you, please share with others so that this content can be helpful to others. Okay, see you next time. Please, you can join our WhatsApp group. I'm just going to link the WhatsApp group down. You can ask more questions there, and I'm also going to link the playlist. If you have missed any of the videos, you can still watch them. Thank you so much. See you in the next video.